MTN SME Hub. Link to growth. Link to success. Link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show, and in studio with us today we've got Heidi Brauer. She is the brand mama. She's the brand mama. I love it, the brand mama. Because she's all about your brand, about building brands, and she comes from a large corporate environment, and now she's assisting, as she puts it in a kind way, people with less resources, i.e. you and I. She's helping us with our brands, and she's going to spend the next 3 weeks with us talking about brand. So in the last segment, we touched on the FTCPOV from the customer's point of view, right? So just give me a practical way for me to do that. And that sounds like, is that the customer journey, or is it their reasons for buying, or like motivate? Like, give me more around that.
So I think from the customer's point of view is just taking your shoes off, putting your customer's shoes on, and looking at your business from the outside in instead of from the inside out.
Okay.
Because we start to believe our own, what do we say?
BS.
Drink our own, that's the one.
Okay. Like BS is in Big Small Business Show.
Exactly that, right. So we drink our own Kool-Aid and we believe all that stuff, and we forget. I remember actually joining a certain airline a long time ago, and I told my CEO, he'll remain nameless, but we all know who he is because we love him. I said, I'm going to do some market research. Because I want a view of what consumers think of us in relation to the other brands in the market. And he said, don't worry, Heidi, I'll tell you. And I said, but I need more than a sample of one.
Yeah.
And we did the research, and we found actually that the brand, it was distinctive in its time. Okay, obviously it's Kahlua. The brand was distinctive in its time because it was novel. It was the first brand, the first airline product that had made aviation, air travel accessible for people. But it was so great that it had been copied. And so now we had, and it's sad to say this, but they've all gone. One Time, Nationwide, Mango, all of them copied the model, even down to the tone of voice and making it cheeky and fun. And so when we did the research, we found that actually we weren't distinctive anymore because we hadn't kept our eye on what others were doing and asked consumers, with the result that other people had stolen our positioning. And we were fordwelled in the middle of nowhere without a distinct positioning. And we had to go about rolling up our sleeves and saying, okay, where's the white space that we can claim? So that's, you don't have to go do market research. Go and talk to people and ask them.
But what you're saying now, Heidi, is interesting for me, because I mean, I see that within the Race Corp environment, our brand and how it's moved, how the market's moved. So the question I have now, the market's moving and shifting and evolving. Your competitors are jostling for those positions. So let's say we were sat in a premium quartile and we were a premium product, and then other people were coming into that space, and the market's moving. So I'm trying to link that to brand, because does the brand have to evolve?
So I think it does. And I have a handy little drawing here that describes just what you were saying, is that everything happens in a context.
Yes.
We don't live in a vacuum. We shouldn't look, you can't run a race looking over your shoulder, but you can't pretend you're the only one running the race. So we have to look at ourselves in the context of other, our competitors. And does the brand have to change? The brand has to stay relevant, I think is the right word. Maybe it doesn't. Probably Coca-Cola's never changed. And even now and then when it has tried to,
it was a mistake.
Yeah, consumers have resisted it.
Yeah.
So the change shouldn't be for change's sake, and because a new marketing manager came in and wants to put their stamp on things. It's all about the business objectives, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment. You have to be driven by the business objectives, because that's what marketing is, and the brand building is in service of the business objectives. So there may be a time, and in fact, that's what happened with Kahlua. Kahlua was the cheap, cheerful challenger brand. It was then copied, and what happened was that even business people were saying, why must I fly the legacy airlines? I pick this. But they didn't want to hear the same cheerful
joke.
Joke.
Yeah.
4 times a week.
Yes.
So we had to evolve. And that didn't mean losing what your essence is. It meant evolving so that in the context, you stay current and you stay relevant because it's good for business.
Are you following the airline market since you've been there?
Sure. I mean, you can't not.
So Fly Safe for me has got if I, in my novice way, look at it, it's around reliability. It's not, it's a very pragmatic, and it gets you there on time and you can rely on it. They're taking that we're reliable and they do everything around that. Am I right? Have I read that correctly?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. And I think, it's so funny because a functional attribute like that typically is not something that can distinguish you unless that functional attribute's not being met by the competitors.
Yes.
So what was happening? I mean, the truth is we didn't have that. The incumbents in the players were not reliable, were not delivering that. And so I said white space earlier. That's exactly what Safair did. They looked at that white space and said, we are going to claim that, and that will be our positioning. And that's how you claim distinctiveness in a sea of sameness, which is typically what there is.
And if I use the Safair example there, so there's this link still between the product and the brand, because they can't just claim to be reliable and not be reliable, right? So the brand and the actual product are very linked. And have you ever seen a brand affect a product and not the product affect the brand? The other way around.
So the best definition I ever heard was a brand is a promise made and a promise kept.
Nice, yeah.
And too often there's a big divide between the people who make the promises and the people who keep the promises. So I'm not answering you directly enough, but I'm just saying that I think the opportunity in business is to make that closeness, and I'm going to refer to that, I think, in part 3, where we have to make the whole greater than the sum of the parts, because that's where the opportunity lies. And absolutely, I go back to years ago, you may remember Standard Bank had a payoff line that said, simpler, better, faster.
Yes.
Nobody believed that.
Yeah.
So you have to be really, really focused on making sure that you layer your whole offering with product and brand distinctiveness, that together, when you have a bite of that cake, it's just more deliciouser than any bite of that cake, anybody else's cake.
Well, you heard about Deliciouser here on the Big Small Business Show from Heidi Brauer. We're going to take a break now. We will have some Deliciouser tea and cake, and we'll see you after that.
MTN SME Hub, link to business success.